Welcome back to the channel. Today we are looking at Death's Abyss dungeon, the full guide from start to finish. Obviously not every single enemy, but all the bosses and all the things that you need to know and do. But before we get into it, I'm giving away some Lucent, the 2,875 Lucent. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave me a comment down below telling me what your favorite dungeon is so far, because I really do love this Death's Abyss. So let's talk about it. So this is basically Spectre's Abyss, but the level 50 version. It's going to be very familiar. There's going to be the same amount of enemies in specific areas. You'll fight a couple of new enemies, which you need to be able to stun, which we'll talk about. And then you'll go and fight the same bosses you fought before, except the first boss that you fight is in a different arena. A little bit more difficult, but not that much more difficult at all. Now, the first thing you need to know is that you need multiple people with stuns, or at least yourself as a tank or something having multiple stuns that you really learn to not use randomly, because you are going to need stuns to stun the arbiters. Arbiters are big enemies, and what they'll do, basically, you'll know when they're about to do their big powerful move because they will dive at somebody. When they land and they dive, they'll say, "I'll wipe you all." Then, if you do not stun them, they will unleash a massive area of effect that will damage and kill pretty much everyone in your team. The tank may be able to tank through it, but it's just one of those things you can easily avoid just by having a stun. Now, there's various stuns on varying different classes. For me, as a tank with a sword and shield, I was using both the charge attack, so you'd see me position myself so that when I charge them, they're going to hit a wall, and also as well, I think it's the great sword perk, which is just a stun in general. So definitely need your stuns, and you need to remember not to use your stuns randomly so that the cooldown is ready for when you have to fight an arbiter. There are about 7 arbiters throughout this whole dungeon. You don't have to fight them all if you know where to run and where to go, but you will have to fight at least 4 of them, I believe. There's one in the first room, one in the little hallway after that room, one closer to the first boss, 2 in the rooms where you have to switch the levers, and then I think there's one closer to the end as well. But you know, they're very easy to deal with once you realize that you have to wait for them to make their jump, wait for them to scream, "I'll wipe you all," and then just stun them. Throughout this dungeon as well, you'll find things like wizards that do need to be killed quickly because they can do a lot of damage, but however, focus on the arbiters. The one thing you want to kill before anything is the healers. So the healers will just make your job so much harder in killing the rest of the enemies. So the priority should be the arbiters first, and if there's a healer next to an arbiter, you want at least 1 or 2 of your people to go and try and fight the healer that may be able to stun the healer, so that the healer will stop healing the arbiter. That was a lot to say. There was a lot of healing words in there, but it is fairly straightforward. It sounds a bit complicated right now, but it is fairly straightforward. Once you get through the first couple of hallways and arenas and stuff, you will come to the first boss, and that is the Archium shadowmancer. He's got his own little room now, his own little arena. So what I would suggest you do is when you enter this room, whether you're on the left or right, stick to that side, kill the wizard, kill the healer, and then wait for the arbiter to walk around the room and kill him too. You can fight the shadowmancer and the arbiter at the same time, but it can be a little bit, you know, a little bit much to deal with. So kill one side of the room and the arbiter, and then you can fight the shadowmancer with the other 2 not even involved, as long as nobody runs over there. So pretty straightforward mechanics with the shadowmancer. You just tank, someone tanks, you know, and just everyone else does DPS. It's really that easy. The one thing that I would suggest is if you can get a sword and shield guy, that's great, because the shadowmancer basically leaves purple circles on the floor which do a lot of damage, and they're kind of in the area where everyone's tanking and fighting. So if you have a sword and shield person with the charge ability, you can move the shadowmancer away from those purple circles, hit them into a wall, stun them, and that just means that you're going to have better control over the fight. However, there's no point in me going over each individual mechanic, because it is just a simple tank, heal, damage. Just avoid purple circles on the floor. There is another move where they'll pick someone up and choke them. Now, I don't know how you get out of this. I think someone else needs to stun the boss. But for the most part, for me, I don't know whether it's glitchy or buggy, you cannot stop this move, and it picks someone at random. I may be wrong here, but I have tried everything. When one of my teammates gets picked up, I've stunned, I've charged everything, and I've not been able to break this move. I've even seen it happen where the other person is on the other side of the room. It's a really strange move, but it does a hell of a lot of damage. So there's two things you can try, like I did. Try and stun the boss. If you're not the one obviously being picked up, try and stun the boss. And then on top of that, just have a healer healing that person constantly, and hopefully even if they survive with like 1 HP, then your healer is going to bring them back up. So next we are going to hit the levers so we can get into the Riot Captain. Now it's totally up to you whether you go through and you fight all the enemies in each room. Typically what most people do is they run past the one guarding the room, go and hit the lever and then run back and hopefully not pull anyone else, either side, left or right. Then you all stack up on the other side. So someone runs in, hits the lever, probably drags 1, maybe 2 enemies out, back to the other side. Then 2 enemies or 1 enemy that has been pulled will follow you all the way across. People can then all just converge on them, kill them. And then you go into the second room and you hit the lever again. And then you can run into the Riot Captain room. There are a couple of enemies here that are going to aggro on you, so you're better off just killing them all and wiping them all out. In each of these lever rooms, and I believe in the room with the Riot Captain, there are arbiters. So if you can avoid them in the lever rooms, leave them in there. The one I think that's in the Riot Captain room, you can just kill them and take them out. If you want to be safe, just kill every enemy in all the rooms. Completely up to you though. Once you're in the Riot Captain room, kill the arbiter, kill the wizards at the back of the room, and then we're going to fight the Riot Captain. Now he's changed a little bit, but he's still fairly straightforward. So his big move that he hits the whole room with can now kill a lot of people very fast. Tanks can usually tank through it, but essentially what you want to do, because there's no way to stop it as far as I know, you need to run to the other side of the room to take less damage. However, I've noticed that if everyone runs away too far, then the boss will reset and get his health back. So it's better to leave a tank on there to take the damage, because most tanks will be able to take the damage and then be healed up so that they're not killed. This means that the boss is always engaged and not able to go and reset his health. Healers here really need to be as far away as possible from the fight where they can still heal the tank, so that when this move happens, they can get away safely without having to run into one of the lever rooms and potentially pulling more enemies. You know, it gives them space to kind of get away so that they can survive the big hit, and then they can get straight back and heal the tank and anyone else who may have got damaged. For the rest of the fight, it's fairly straightforward. Again, it's just tank, heal, do damage. Simple as that. One thing you can do with the Riot Captain, if you have enough people that can stun consistently, you can pretty much keep him stunned for the majority of the fight. So you're not taking any extra damage. The only time he will do damage to you is his big special move, because he gets a barrier which allows him to not be stunned. So as long as you're stunning as much as you can, you're keeping your health up as much as possible, then when he does finally get out the big special move, you know, even though it does huge damage, most people will probably survive because I haven't taken any extra damage throughout the fight. Right, so let's talk about Karnix, formerly Helliba. Now this fight is very similar, but you just have to be more aware and more focused, block more, and just understand that if you don't perform the mechanics, you are going to wipe. Whereas in the past, you know, even if 2 people die, you'll probably be able to survive and kill Helliba. But in this fight, if anyone dies, it's pretty much over, unless you've got a really good healer. So let's talk about some of the mechanics, because there's quite a few here. First and foremost, these normal kind of attacks are easily tankable by a good tank with like 16,000 HP. So there's not much to worry about. As long as the healer's keeping an eye on him, should be fine. Then he does a couple of moves. So in the old fight, he would teleport twice, and that would be it. Every time he teleports, he does like a big scythe into the floor, and it leaves a cone wave of damage. In this fight, does the same thing, except the cone wave of damage will also throw you up into the air. I can't remember whether it did that in Spectre's Abyss, but it will throw you up into the air and leave you stranded. This is a big problem because later on when we talk about one of the other moves, it can be quite devastating. You can pretty much avoid this by rolling out the way, but while he's doing the 3 teleports, if you get hit by it, you get hit by it. Now, in the old fight, he did 2 teleports. In this fight, he does 3 teleports. The 3rd teleport is very quick, and he'll do a very quick stunning move. So you watch the first 2 teleports, and then for the 3rd one, when he goes, you should be blocking, because he'll teleport behind a random person and stun them. It's not that big of a deal if you get stunned, because he doesn't follow up with anything too damaging, but it's just something you want to be aware of, focused on. especially if you're a healer, because obviously you need your healers to be alive. Now, the next move is basically his kind of AoE attack, where he's randomly just standing still. You know, he hasn't done anything prior. He'll get a big purple circle on him that will start to, you know, shorten into the center circle, the typical block mechanic. However, in this fight, everyone needs to block regardless of where you are, because the AoE is bigger, larger, and it does more damage. Plus, it's also just a good discipline into getting into blocking, and it will just help the team dramatically. So usually if you've got someone in voice communication, they could just say block, especially if it's a tank. You know, you'll see me doing it in this footage in a second. You just shout block. Once you've blocked this damage, you'll do one of two things. You'll either go back to the teleporting mechanic, or more likely, he will now spawn the scythes that chase people around. You'll hear a voice command saying, chase them to the ends of the abyss. And basically, he'll spawn 3 circles on the floor with spinning scythes in them. They will chase random people. So as soon as you hear this voice line or someone calls it out, you need to be running to the edges of the map. However, it only follows 3 people, and there's an issue here because if you're not in a full team communicating and worked out good routes, then what will happen is you'll start to cross over each other. So say it's chasing me and it's chasing one of my teammates, and I'm running around the edge of the map and they run directly towards me. That means I or he is screwed, because we're going to have to run past each other and potentially get hit by the other person's scythes. So essentially what I was doing was running into one of the corners and basically just cutting out 1/4 of the map and running in a square so that it was in my corner of the map. However you guys do it is up to you. You can run around randomly and survive, but it's just a bit of a risk. If you've got a great healer, then it's going to be fairly straightforward. Now, straight after these scythes is the move that he does that can kill everyone instantly. So back in Spectre's Abyss, you get a random black circle drop underneath a person and everyone would have to stack on them. This is more damaging, and if there's less people within the stack, he's going to kill more people. However, it's actually telegraphed because he only ever does this move straight after the scythes. So what we were doing basically was, after the scythes have run out, we all gather up in the middle. So there's an indication as to when you need to go to the center of the map. So there's no reason typically why you should be dying to this move. However, you all need to stack up on top of each other when one person gets the black circle underneath them. The only real issue you're going to have here is if you're matchmaking, someone else on your team doesn't know the mechanics and they run away from you and everyone's trying to catch them up to stand in with them. That's the only issue you're really going to have. Just remember, and you can type this in chat before the fight, after the scythes chase you, everyone stack in the middle. Everyone then should know what to do. So you run away from the scythes and you go in the middle. The scythes, though, they also later on in the fight switch from 3 to 4. So they'll chase 4 separate people instead. Still manageable. And those are the mechanics, essentially. Those are all the mechanics. It's just something you need to stay focused for, you know, a little bit more than anything else you've probably done in the past for dungeons. And, you know, once you get the rhythm down and you understand when the moves are coming, it becomes trivial. This is probably easier than doing the level 40 one, where you have to fight Lacoon, once you get used to it, because the Lacoon mechanics are so, I don't want to say complicated, but, you know, they're just so over the top that it makes this look easy. So, you know, this, once you get used to it, once you understand it, very, very straightforward. And that is the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. I've been Easy Now. You guys have been awesome.